So these are the fenders, fiberglass fenders we're going to be putting on Dodge. It's an '07 Dodge. We already got the front ones on. See where they stick out. And notorious rust happens on these. So we're going to yank the box off, and then we got some sawhorses built, and we'll throw that on there. There are spot welds all along here that we're going to work on, and on by the lights, and also inside here we're going to take out. So we'll get the truck backed in and get the bolts undone and see if the wife can help me lift it off. So we took off these bed caps that were up here. They're just plastic ones. But there's rust there, and there's really bad rust right there. And I don't know if the previous owner put these on when he sold the truck just to cover this kind of stuff up, but something to think about when you're putting covers on. If that stuff gets up in there and just sits on there, that de-icer or salt, wherever state you're in. So we got those off. Now we're going to start unbolting all the box bolts. I think there's 6 of them. We'll get in here and find out, and I'll let you know where they're at. So I got the box off, excuse me, not the cab. There were 6 bolts. There's one there, and then there's one there, and then there's one up in the front. So 3 on both sides. Make sure you unhook tail lights, get the wire shoved down through the frame. There is a ground wire that attaches, I think it was right there. Here's one of the other bolts. It was attached there in the front, one on each side. Then you need to make sure you undo the fuel. Unscrew all that, shove it down. I put a piece of paper, paper towels in the fuel lid area. I have shock reservoirs, so I had to make sure I disconnected those and slid them out. And then make sure if you do have a hitch that you undo your springs, your release for your chains on the 5th wheel. You have to undo those so it'll slide up out of the hitch. But other than that, we got it off now. Here's the 1, 2, 3. That's what it looks like. There's the hose over there, fuel line hose. Maybe an hour and a half, you know. They are rusted in there pretty bad on some of those. And so what I did was my handle for my jack, take that out, and you're going to use, it's an 18mm socket. The Ryobi impact would get it going, most of them, but there's one I just had to pretty much do all by hand because it was that badly rusted in there. And here's the bolts here. That one's not too bad, but so we'll get on with removing all the spot welds and getting the fenders on. And then I just used some straps up, some 2x6s across for supports to lift it up. And I made these makeshift stands to hold the body or the back bed on, so I can remove all this garbage. I mean, that's just... Alright, we'll get going. We've been at this for a little bit. So I'm using the Harbor Freight spot weld bit, and I'm also pilot drilling with a drill bit each spot to help it from not wandering. There's a little spring inside this thing here. You can adjust it. There's an Allen screw in the back side, and you can just kind of, I got it kind of right at the top of where it comes out. It's taking longer than I thought, I have this on the low speed on my drill. I recommend on the low, and even starting out just real slow and just kind of getting it to get centered and cutting before you really get. And you're going to use a lot of force to get to bite. And I don't think the Harbor Freight ones, excuse me for coughing, but the Harbor Freight ones don't really have great steel to hold up for going through all this stuff. So I bought 2, but I think I'm probably gonna have to end up using 4, maybe even 6 bits by the time I get all done with this. They're like $7-8 a piece, but I can't find anyone in town that has. Lowe's, Home Depot don't carry the kinds that I would like, and I don't carry them at all, excuse me. And so that's what we're doing. This is probably going to take me several hours to get all these spot welds, and then once we get the spot welds, once we get the panel off, we'll go back and grind these all smooth, paint this with a sealant before we throw the body on. Now don't do these spot welds. Make sure you just are only doing the outside ones when you're doing this, because that's what the body panel is for. The other shop, they said, well, they leave these on and they'll cut up here across and then attach the fiberglass to that, but I don't want to do it like that. I think that's more work and would look dumb. Plus this is all rusted on top. I want this to be complete fiberglass all around the sides. So we'll keep going, get after it. Where'd they go? I don't know. The Harbor Freight ones are a piece of garbage. Don't even waste your time with them. I got this at a parts store. It's $14 compared to the Harbor Freights are like $7. Definitely sharper steel, stronger steel. If you use a lower speed, it seems to be holding up and just going through it a lot faster. I had a problem finding the holes because I got rhino lining in here, and so I have to like find where it is, and then I drill a pilot hole through. So all these got little pilot drill bits through them, but then as you can see, and then it's giving still me a problem come off, and I've seen this stuff here and I'm like, I bet you this is some kind of epoxy glue that they used when they assembled it, and sure enough. So you got to take a screwdriver and go and just bust it all up and pry it up. Don't bend it too much, you'll bend this metal down. Just kind of enough, keep it right here on this corner when you're prying. And then there was 2 other ones there. We got the front all done. This inner one is going to have to get replaced. I might just cut it off and not even replace it because the fenders won't touch it. I was thinking of building a special custom metal one that comes out and somehow attaches the fender, and I want to enclose it all. Some of the Dodges have under here a full plastic sheet that comes down where the frame is, and or plastic inner liner. I don't know if I can get that for this model here. This is an 07. If not, I'll make something. I'd like to keep the de-icer and some of the garbage from getting down in these channels. This channel here has a lot of dirt just compiling in there, which can lead to rust, water, staying there. It's already got some pretty good flakiness. I'm going to try to clean that up and power wash that out, get that all cleaned up and get this cleaned up. But that's the progress we're making for tonight. This is the first day on it, and we'll get this ripped off and try to clean this up, and then get this fender on there just to kind of see how it looks. And then tomorrow I'll go and get the rest of this other one off and hopefully get that mounted. I'm looking at some kind of rust cleaner for the frame. There's rust all over it here. I'll show you guys real quick. I don't know if we did this video or not, but washed it off some with the hose, as you can see. Got rust in here and here, surface rust. I don't like these brackets they put on here. Dirt tends to pile up and rocks tend to pile up on these brackets here. You gotta really wash them, keep them clean. If you lived on a dirty road, you're just gonna constantly have garbage caked in there. But that's what we're looking at. Alright, we'll get on with it and get back with you guys later. Alright, so it's the next morning. Well, midday. We got the fender finally on. Just back here a little bit, get a better view of that. We'll have to squeeze this a little better together. So it took me several tries to get it to fit. It is snug. When I got this, the fiberglass came all the way out to here, and I don't know if they didn't have time because they were in a hurry to make mine when I was picking it up, but you're going to need to trim it back. And this top piece here, I had to trim back here, and then you're going to need to trim, and I still need to trim a little more for where the tailgate hitches right there. It's almost just about a ½ an inch, or just a hair and a ½ an inch of where that will be remaining out. If you look at the other body panel, you can see it's pretty thin there. So I ended up taking that off just to make it easier so I can kind of keep playing around and seeing how much. I did grind a little bit on the inside of the metal here, and then also some on the fiberglass. You know, these are formed, pre-formed, and they do a pretty good job, but you're going to have to do some body work. I mean, there's no way about it. It's not a piece of metal that came from a pre-manufactured shop. And then even up here, I'm going to have to do a little trimming up there to get it to sit down just a little tighter. And I had to trim back in here too, thinner, just because it was so snug to get it on there. So there it is. That fender compared to the old fender. So it'll be about almost the same width as my fender flares with the new body panels on there. So anything else I can think of? I got paint and I got rivets. I got some stainless steel rivets I'm going to use. I'm not going to glue the panel. You can use glue on the top to adhere, but I'm not going to do that, and you can use glue here. This box has some spots that look like it might rust out, and I want to be able to remove these box panels if I keep this truck for very long. So I'm just going to rivet it all in there, and I might put some double-sided tape, sticky tape here and then in the back, and maybe one in the middle. But once I rivet it down there, this thing ain't going to go nowhere. Plus I'm going to have my tunnel cover on top of this too. See how that works. Alright, let's get going. If your inner fender is still good, you'll have to do those pop rivets too to get that off. But yeah, you can see this one's no good. And then you'll have a bolt down there holding that bottom bracket, and then there's another one up here in the front. Make sure you undo those. But especially since there's glue up here, I'm finding it to be easier just to cut this so I can stick the screwdriver in there and prop it up, pry it up, try to get that release off that glue that's in there. But yeah, I just cut around, get away from the edges, and alright. I've used 5 bags sandblasting, and you can see how it cleaned up. I mean, that's with some thick rust in there, real thick, caked up, and it cleaned it up where we got some flash rust going on from the water. But I could have gotten there a little better. I want to use the grinder on this stuff here because it's a little more open. Sander. I'm not going to worry about the springs right now. Eventually I want to take them off and redo the packs. The plastics in there are worn out. But it works really good. And there was some stuff caked in there, got it all out good. So yeah, I recommend this water sandblasting if you don't want to be doing grinding a ton of. But this here, I'm just going to use this grinder or wire wheel on that, this flatter stuff. But down in here in these corners, it was caked up and got in there pretty good. So we'll use that Eastwood frame protector paint here in a bit. Probably tomorrow. I'm just going to finish up doing some sanding here and there. And then the bottom of the frame, I didn't get underneath. You can see. I'm going to do that later. So we've got 2 bags gone through already of sand, and it's working pretty good. You see all that is cleaned up real good. All that. Still working on. It'll take this stuff up, this other rust here. It's getting that off of there. So I definitely recommend this. You are going to use a lot of sand. So if I go, that's not that. It's hard to see, but like this, there's a layer of rust caked in there. It's hard to see with dirt, but like an eighth of an inch, or I don't know. But anyhow, like it's hard. I didn't power wash. I got all the sand on it, but it is working really good. I'm really liking this. We'll get a different video, but it's getting it down to like the primer, whatever from the factory probably. It is taking it off. Have an air compressor ready with that blowout. Sometimes you might get clogged up of sand in there. Maybe a little water gets in there, but I'm trying to keep that cover over like that. You are going to need an air compressor with like 2,000 psi. That seems to be working pretty good with the sand. This is the sand you get at the play sand. I put this tarp down to collect it all and scoop it back up and probably try to reuse it again if I can without the filter. But I should drop the fuel tank so I can get on that side of the frame, but I kind of got to get my truck back together soon because I got to take the camper up for the wife. But that's how it's looking so far. It's turning out really good. I like it. I'm liking it. It's worth the money, I think, to get that little kit. It's like 25 bucks off Amazon.